This entitled mum has stolen the inheritance from her siblings, but now she's greedy for more, and the rest of the family must unite if they are to defeat this money-hungry EM. Happy birthday if today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. A little backstory. My mum, who is on SSDI, top tier, almost $2,800 a month, has a very hard time budgeting. Last year she decided to sell my grandparents' house in Southern Oregon to move back to Seattle area. She got the house by having my grandma with dementia change the will and cut out her two siblings, my uncle and aunt. And after my grandma passed, the house and all the savings and belongings went to my mum. So she sells the house, and instead of buying a reasonable home, she has limited mobility. She buys herself and her 3 cats a 4,000 square foot home in a gated community. There was literally no money left over from the sale acquisition of a new home. I had to help by paying for a moving van and helpers. Before this, she had a settlement from a slip/fall lawsuit of roughly $50,000, which she instantly rolls into a brand new 2018 Toyota Highlander. She had been left my grandma's 2009 Aspen SUV, but the gas mileage was not good enough. Then she backs into a tree and busts a taillight on her new car a few months after buying it, goes to dealership to fix taillight, decides she needs a brand new 2019 fully loaded Highlander with a tow package, which she has nothing to tow, so this is a mystery. She trades in her 2018 with 5K miles on it and takes out a $35K car loan, and this is on a fixed income, and she always has money struggles. So here is like $80K of car at this point. Excellent. She is constantly begging my bro, sis, and I for money. We are 38 bro, 36 me, 27 sis, and all trying to establish ourselves in our lives, careers, and financial security. I'm a stay-at-home mum with 2 young kids. We live off my husband's income as an apprentice tradesman and have to be very frugal. We qualify to live in low-income housing, and I find ways to be resourceful, like donating our time and vehicle to help a local food bank, so we're able to get some food as well as help community. We don't own a home or brand new fancy cars, and if you take away rent and do the math for just us 2 adults, we live on less than her monthly SSDI. Yet every month she has a sad story about how she can't afford X or Y. She finally cancelled her $175 a month TV plan. I have asked her more times than I can count to please not bring up money matters with me. I've offered to help her budget, but she refuses the help, only wants money. Well, she brought up money the other day when she came up to our apartment to visit the grandkids. But really she came to pilfer the food bank transportation we do every Sunday before we drop at food bank, saying she didn't have enough money to pick up her prescriptions. This is just after she told me she gets her prescriptions in the mail. I told her I could spare $15 for gas money, but that was all. I explained we are a family of 4 living on 1 income and we have a tight budget. I remind her she has had plenty of opportunity to save or spend her money more wisely. So she takes the $15 and goes. I get a call the next day of her crying, saying that the way I brought up her poor money choices was terribly upsetting, pretty much making me out to be the villain and her the victim. This self-victimizing routine is her go-to. It's exhausting because I've done so much for her. I put my life on hold for 5 years after college to be her full-time caretaker. She fell and needed a hip replacement. I couldn't hold down a job or any healthy relationships because I was constantly being called back home to get this or that for her, take her to doctor's appointments, etc. I could literally write a novel in all the ways I've helped her. I feel like this post is a novella. Anyways, screw her for trying to make me out to be the bad guy because I don't give her money to get extra prescriptions to fuel her addiction. Screw her for even putting it out there and begging my family for money when she has so much. And lastly, screw her for never respecting my boundaries, which I need to preserve my well-being. After her sob-story phone call, I was upset and took me a few hours to get my head on straight. I wasn't a good mum to my kids at that time. So to be a better mum to my my kids, I'm putting old mom in timeout. I need a break from her entitled self. And I gotta say, I don't see anything wrong with that, especially if you feel like it's affecting how you are as a parent to your kids. Taking a break from a toxic, entitled person who's not appreciating anything you're giving them so that you can be a better parent to your kids sounds like a very healthy choice to me. And you know what? It might do the entitled person some good too when they realize that maybe the way that they've been treating other people hasn't been so nice, and maybe they haven't been appreciating them like they should. Some background. I'm moderately autistic and struggle with reactions in social situations, or when things have been changed. For instance, about 3 years ago, when I was 17, I had a tantrum, screaming, crying, the works, because my nana, who was 90 at the time, was told to remove the mat from the living room as she might trip over it. I had been there since the 1990s, so I grew up with it and couldn't comprehend it not being there. It's not because I'm spoiled, because I am far from it, but because it's just the way I handle change. I also have a really good memory and take things very literal. Yesterday, I was in my local shopping center just with my brother, D, and my mum as my other brother's, N, wedding is coming up in a few days, and D still hasn't got a suit since he usually leaves everything to the last minute. First of all, we went to the M&S cafe, which is sort of in the middle of the shopping center. I was being funny about entering the cafe as I hadn't been there since before the virus, and a lot of things have changed. And as I've mentioned before, I struggle to deal with change. I was refusing to go into the shop, at least until I felt I was ready, which usually takes a couple of minutes. I hadn't realized I was standing in front of the hand sanitizer when an elderly lady and her mother asked somewhat rudely if I could move out the way so they could sanitize their hands. I, of course, apologized and moved. Mom and Dee were already in the queue for the till. I was still outside the walls of the open-air cafe and had a few tears in my eyes and on my cheeks shaking my head no. Mum got stern with me and dragged me in eventually. Literally before Mum had reached where I was standing, I heard the older woman say, "Kids these days, so disrespectful," as she tutted away to herself. Excuse me, lady? I let it slide though, but told my mum about what happened. She wasn't too happy either. Not very many of the older population understand learning disabilities because of the whole, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist mentality they have. We had a cup of tea and biscuits and went off to the next shop to search for shoes, having bought a suit in the previous shop. Dee had found the men's dress shoes and had sat down to try some on with my mum watching and commenting on each pair. Me being autistic, I find it hard to sit still and constantly need to be stimulated, so I wandered off as I usually do. Never too far from my mum though, I'm always in sight. I was worked up about the man checking our temperature as no other shop was doing it, and it was a bit scary to me. Another effect of the type of autism I have is to be scared of authority, so I was stimming, basically shaking my hands up and down to help me calm. I can't control it, and walking in circles around the clothes rack with quite a bit of space between me and the clothes. Cue entitled Karen. She literally even had the Karen haircut with the flipping Michael Kors handbag and heels and whatnot. Now this shop we were in was a Karen empire. I was just hoping I wouldn't get confronted by one, but I did. This is how the conversation went. "You need to stop doing that with your wee hands, pet. You're spreading your virus everywhere." I look up at her like a deer in headlights and stay silent. "Did you hear me? Speak." Again, staying silent. "Hello?" I turn to my mother, turn back to her, and back to my mother, back to her, and just walk away. I heard entitled parents scoff as I walked away. I was tempted to turn around and give the finger to her, but I decided against it. I ran up to my mum crying from fear and anger, and the fact that I can't help it when I stim. Mom asked me what was wrong, and I told her all about what happened. Again, she wasn't very pleased. I pointed her through clouded eyes as we left the shop. Mum told me just to ignore people like her who clearly don't understand how the world works. We went home and made some hot chocolate, which stopped me crying. They mentioned that it's difficult for older generations, and I think part of that is if you look at the statistics, things like autism are just becoming more and more common. Back when they were young, in the 60s, it was something like 1 in 2,000 people had it, whereas now it's close to 1 in 60, and we don't know what's causing it. So it makes sense why they don't understand, but it doesn't make them any less responsible for understanding that the world that they live in is different from the one they grew up in. The backstory. This is a story from about 2.5 years ago, during one of my dad's closest cousin's wedding, and it is from the perspective of one of my aunts. She is an awesome person, who is the choreographer in this story. In Indian weddings, there is a cultural celebration, where close family members of both sides of the marriage perform a bunch of dances as for entertainment of the people attending the wedding. This is called a Sangeet, and our side of the family had to perform 5 dances, and my aunt said she could help with a couple or so dances and possibly give them a small discount on the money part. The groom's mother is the EM in this story. As soon as she heard the aunt was ready to help with the dances, she pounced on the opportunity and told her to cover for all 5 of the dances from scratch, which meant choosing the songs, the people dancing, steps, teaching, cues, lighting effects, everything. My aunt was really happy to help them out and knew that it was tough to find a cheap choreographer anyways, so decided to agree. After that, the EM also put a condition that all the practice sessions and meetups to happen at Aunt's house, because their house was really busy, and then also said that food and refreshments to be made there and not ordered from somewhere outside, cause goodness knows who puts what in the food. By the way, EM and her family eat out almost 2 to 3 times a week normally, and I know that because they post it on social media every time. Aunt again was like, okay, we can handle that. And my mum said that she would help her with the food situation by bringing some from home and also helping her make food over at theirs. Also, mind you, EM's family is a joint family, i.e. consisting of 11 people, including the groom and his soon-to-be wife. We had a system set up where we would meet twice every week, Wednesday and Sunday, from the afternoon till the evening, and practice most of the time. EM's family was not being cooperative. My parents and I, and also my cousin's family, helped them choose the songs and some of the steps and some parts of the choreography, whereas EM's family did nothing and neither pay attention during the practice sessions. Aunt told all of us to practice the steps every single day and send her a video of our progress, and 2 of the 3 participating families religiously followed the rules, other than, surprise, EM's family. They didn't show any enthusiasm towards this celebration for some reason. The main story. It was the day of the performance, and EM's family completely blew it in the dances. Aunt was so embarrassed that she literally cried after the whole thing. Mine and my cousin's family did really well, and after all of it, when we were waiting back just to have a little chat, EM was completely blaming Aunt for why their dance was a complete mess. She accused my aunt of giving too hard of a song. Their family was given some of the slowest songs. Too many steps. Their whole family collectively had about 23 steps. My family of 3 people had 29. Too little time. The practice session started 6 months before the event. Didn't focus on their family on how they were dancing. They were the ones not paying attention. And then saying that all the food they were served was crap. Every single day the practice was there. Mum, aunt, and other aunt prepared a special dish. And just smack talking my aunt, and literally everyone else as well. And then decided she would cut 99% of the amount she was gonna pay to my aunt for the choreography, which was never ever discussed. Whenever that point was brought up, they immediately switched topics and ended up paying 2,500 rupees, not to be confused with the Legend of Zelda, but the Indian national rupee, which converts to about 35-ish US dollars, and a bunch of swear words, insults, and death glares. Conclusion: my aunt worked her butt off for this occasion, lost money on the food, cleaning up after. She had to have her house professionally cleaned after this whole occasion ended, cause they littered in the house like it was nothing. Broken stuff, there were kids there, what do you expect? Stolen stuff, and lost a lot of time and energy too, alongside with the stress of the whole thing. She was completely heartbroken after all of this, and she fully blamed herself for it, even does to this date, and EM treated her like crap. You know, it would have been bad enough if all they did was just use her house and trash it, but the fact that they didn't even really pay her? I mean, you'd hope at the very least that she would have been compensated for all of this stress. And you know, her time and effort actually serving these people? It sounds like there were a lot of red flags right from the start. I don't know if there was any way she could have really known though. It's so tricky in these situations where there's sort of weddings involved and family events and things. You don't really want to say no and create conflict, but at the same time, you don't want to be taken advantage of. So what do? You get stuck in the middle. And unless there's somebody to stand up for you, you probably don't have much chance of getting out of it. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments down below. So this was this morning, and I'm a bit ticked off. My ex-friend, F, not the same one as in different stories, decided to block me on all social media because of a text message stream we had in November last year. I'll try to rewrite it here. Also, we're both 14, if that clarifies anything. So, I like other friend's name, how about you? I like you. Friend blocks me. Now, I'm confused and I asked her friends why she did that. They all say it's because she hates me for putting her on the spot like that. For the rest of middle school, she torments me and got her friends to as well, whenever they saw me. During quarantine, I guess she unblocked me because I get a text from her saying, "Hey, sorry about what I did, can we be friends?" I thought about this for a bit and I hate being rude to people, so I just said sure. Now her friends at golf think we're dating. She calls me names like boo and babe, even though I have asked her not to. This was my final text message with her. "I don't understand why you're calling me this. We aren't dating." "Yes we are. You asked me out when you accepted my friendship again." "I never meant it that way. And if you think that, then I'm breaking up with you." "You can't do that. I'll choose when we're over." "Alright, bye." Blocks her. A few days later, or this morning, I get a knock on my door. I open it to see F bawling with her mother, EM. "May I ask why you're here?" "How dare you break up with my daughter?" "We aren't even dating." "Yes you were, you little crap. You're such a jerk for ruining my daughter's life." At this point, I start to close the door, knowing I won't get anywhere by talking to them, when EM puts her foot out to keep the door open. She is significantly larger than me, so she easily overpowers me and manages to get into my house. Get out of my house! "I won't leave until you agree to date my daughter again." I pull out my phone and call the cops while trying to make sure EM doesn't go anywhere. I was home alone, so my parents couldn't exactly help, considering they were at work. About 15 minutes later of arguing, the police arrive and start asking questions. What seems to be the problem? "He assaulted me." Actually, she broke into my house and demanded I date her daughter. "Ma'am, please step outside." "No, the little prick needs to date my baby girl." The police officer was chill the whole time and eventually got her off my property. I still have F blocked and haven't heard from them yet. I haven't pressed charges and it seems to have mellowed out. I'm not sure if she was really insecure at the start, because obviously she must have liked him too in the end, right? What I don't understand is why the mother was so defensive, like why this had to happen, there had to be a thing with them. Is she that concerned with her daughter's social standings? Or maybe her daughter just came crying to her and she's like, "Well, honey, I'm gonna make this right." Whatever the case was, it doesn't sound like something the mother should have been involved in at all, considering he made it really clear that they weren't dating and blocked her. Submit your story to be read on the channel at VoiceyHereStories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.